Hi everybody,
Hello.
This is Hob.
And Jamie.
And you're watching
Dutch and Dragons.
This is where we go get Dutch Brothers coffee and talk about Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games in general. Today we are doing our box of random, but we also have some viewer questions. So we'll start off with those. They come from YouTube, Tweak C. I think that's how you say that. And they have the following questions.
Number one, how do you handle world creation as a group?
So there are a couple of different ways that you can do it. I like early on, like in your zero session, you go to your players as they're creating their character and they go, okay, your character is from a town. What's the name of the town? And you ask them questions about the town, about the people in the town, and about their life growing up in the town. And then you kind of build on that, and you add some exports, and you get some names, and you have them help you actually create this town that exists in your world, and then you make sure that they can go there. So that's one way to do it. What about you?
Another way is to do it while they're exploring, especially if I don't have a particular destination in mind. I will say, hey, you arrive at this town. Is it a big town? Is it a little town? What's the name of it? So I let them add to the world as they explore it as part of, like, exploratory bonuses. That sometimes works out really well. That can sometimes bite you in the butt as a DM, especially if you're trying to, like, harry your party and you get them someplace and they're like, we're going to take a long rest in this big, luxurious town that happens to be full of healing potions. So, I mean, you do have to be a little careful when you go that route and kind of rein your players in if they want to, like, use the world building is also a way to kind of get around stuff. I know you guys are joined by our chair today.
Yeah, don't mind the chair. It's got to go back. It's broken. So those are a couple of things that you can do. You can also sit down and the next question actually is appropriate for this, which is, are there any fun games for creating a history? There's one game that I know of, and I wish I could remember the name. I think it's called Kingdoms or something like that. And basically, it's a game where you play as world builders. So you play as a kingdom as a group, or as different kingdoms as a group, and sort of develop this history of the world as you go. And I'll try and find a link to it and put that in the description down below. And we're going to order coffee.
We're going to order coffee. Hold on a second. Well, I'm going to get tea.
Morning.
I'm not going to get it right this time.
That's okay. Small, iced, extra shot, coconut milk caramelizer.
And the other one is a small iced.
Usually, but not today.
Okay, it's a German chocolate.
Normally but not today.
Is, but not today.
But is it like the same one with coconut milk too?
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
But
what's it today?
Today I want to get one of the cinnamon spice tea, Sweet Sunrise.
Alright, do you want to do it hot?
Iced.
Iced.
What size?
Small?
Small.
Small ice. Alright, anything else you guys today?
No, that's it.
I'm full. I'm sorry. I totally forgot it was my turn.
Card.
Alright, 820 for you guys today. Oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it. There's no thing on the screen. If there is, it's on fire. What are you guys doing today? Any plans at all?
Well, say goodbye to your card.
Bye.
No, we're just taking a chair back to Home Depot.
Okay, what was wrong with the chair?
It's like
Bowed.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Alright, you guys have a good time returning your chair and getting your money back.
Thanks.
I'll dig it out later. It's totally gold. Okay,
All right,
so back to history.
So anyhow, I will try and find a link to the game and put it in the description down below.
One of the things I like to do with history is if you're playing in a world where your players have played before, maybe they've played other characters in this world, I always ask them, 100 years down the line, what do their stories sound like today? So I have some of our world that our players are currently playing in. They've had players in this world in the past who are now kind of spoken about like you would Hercules or some of these great heroes of Earth past, but they're all spoken about like oh my goodness, that's, we should go find Caragrel's magic spear because that was supposed to be a big thing. Which didn't. But yeah. So another fun game is, how is the natural progression of the stories of your players?
Right. If you continuously play in the same world, your time period can impact the history of your world and allow your players to add to it through their exploits as previous characters.
Next question, any unique ways of developing pantheons?
So this is a tough one because I hate developing pantheons.
I think it's fun.
There's a lot of thought that has to go into it. You have to think about the deity and its relationship with any of the other deities. You have to think about
its relationship
to the world, its relationship to its followers, its relationship to the followers of other deities. You have to think about what domains it covers, which means, like, is it good or evil, and like there's so much stuff that goes into it. Most of the time I just steal from other source material,
and there's a lot to be said about not reinventing the wheel,
right? Because
most gods, if you go through and look at Earth and all of the gods that have come up from past civilizations here, they all have a lot of the same themes: sun and war, lightning. But while most players are usually familiar with Greek and Norse and
sometimes Roman as well,
you can find an Egyptian. A lot of times is pretty well known, but there are some pretty obscure pantheons out there that they probably haven't heard of.
Yep.
Persian is a good one.
Yeah, the Persian deities are a good one to pull from. And you can always reskin, right? And that's actually a really good way to do it. So you change the names, you change the places, you change a little bit of the history without significantly altering what the deity does. And you can even change the alignments too in some cases, so that I got something in my eye.
That some of the gods have different sort of roles.
Right.
A fun way, if you're just trying to come up with some deities, you can have a little bit of fun with, you come up with the deity, put all of the domains in a hat, like war, fertility, and just draw 3 for every deity. You will come up with some pretty crazy deities, and this works really well, especially if you like a little more chaotic in your gameplay.
Yeah, and you can take something that actually just occurred to me with what you said, is take all of the existent deities, like that are in a book or in some source material, take all of the things that they do, take and create new names for them, and then in your bag of tricks, you basically just take all of the stuff that already exists, hoocha, and figure out what comes out. That's another good way to do it, to reskin.
But the couple questions you always have to ask when creating deities, especially if you're doing it from scratch, is who are their followers? Who are their followers, and why do people pray to this god? Yep. Why is this god important to your world? Does the god actually exist? Do they actually care about the world? And what is their relationship with other gods?
Yeah.
And those are the important questions to kind of answer in order to make the deities functional.
Yeah, because remember, your religions and your deities don't have to have actual power. Like, the deity itself doesn't have to actually have real power in your world. It can be simply something that somebody made up, and that's okay.
Flying spaghetti monster. Think of it that way.
Yeah, flying spaghetti monster. Absolutely valid. So last question.
Does history have a role in your world beyond the occasional check?
Yes.
Yes. For every game that I play or that I run, I usually give my players sort of what every 5th grader would know about the world. This covers like any cataclysmic events, any sort of like huge wars, especially like if there was a great dwarven war and someone is playing a dwarf, I will often put in their little intro sheet, there was a great dwarven war, and you know about it because maybe your ancestors fought in it. A lot of times I will throw magic weapons at them that are historic dwarven weapons that belonged to their great and ancient bloodline. So a lot of times I try to work some of that stuff into my games just to give a rich feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So with my world, history, if you have proficiency in history, you're going to get information when you know something.
There's this guy in this line in a truck, and he's just asleep in his truck. Like, seriously
I mean,
asleep.
I could beep at him.
Just give him a little bit. Dude, wake up. Hey, there he goes.
Hey, he woke up.
I don't know if he's drunk from last night and getting his morning
I don't know,
coffee,
but he's
asleep
just
at his
sitting there.
wheel, man.
Just sitting there, not paying any attention. Anyhow, so in my world, if you're going to a place that has historical relevance and your character has proficiency in history, more than likely you are going to get some kind of informational about the place. And I may give it to you verbally, I might hand it to you on a card, I might write it down on a piece of paper, or I might tell you that you remember something about it and you're not quite sure what it is, and then the history check can reveal more. It depends on the place, the character, the source of the history. All of those things are relevant, and I think that if you are going to have a world with history, it needs to be more than just a check. It needs to be real. It needs to have some visceral meaning to it.
And I kind of go with the whole thing, like, if you've got a wizard, right? Wizards have been studying arcane and magic since they were, like, knee-high to an elephant. No, well, that's pretty high. But
that is actually
that's
really
pretty tall.
high.
But
knee-high to an elephant.
knee-high to a grasshopper. You know, they've been studying this for a long time, so if I have a wizard go into an arcane temple, I'll either tell them that they recognize the symbols. This is obviously arcane. Maybe you think you might have read about this in an obscure book. Do a check to make sure you remember it. Or am I saying you don't recognize any of this is very significant, meaning in all of your studies you have done throughout your years, you've never run into something like this. So, yeah.
And I think sometimes players miss those cues because they don't realize that we're doing those things actively in the game. It's just sort of second nature to us. But yes, history is definitely more than just an occasional check. It's very real for our worlds. At least we try to make it.
And now for the random box.
The random box.
All right. First question from the random box. How do you move the game forward when it stalls because of a rules issue? Ooh.
So, I'm going to use a term that's going to make you all laugh. It's Elmo. And that stands for enough, let's move on. Not tickle me. It stands for enough, let's move on. So basically, I will side table that rules issue and say, I'm making this decision. This is the decision we're running with. We can revisit this topic after the game.
Absolutely.
And that's it. It's
done.
done.
If the player still wants to make a thing of it, you just sort of have to railroad them and go over.
Yep.
And be like, no, we've moved on. No, we've moved on.
Yep.
Practice that, Game Masters. No.
Yeah,
right.
that's important.
Next question.
Yes.
How detailed do I need to get with the politics in my world?
Entirely up to you and your players. Some players respond really, really well to political games and political intrigue.
And some
not
players,
so much.
It's lost on. So I always say, know who's ruling your town. Know who's going to judge them if they break a rule in your town and who's going to arrest them.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you don't really need to get really heavy into it unless you are playing a game where the point is political intrigue.
Yeah, if the political intrigue is important, then you need to know the politics inside and out. You need to you need to know how Machiavellian it is. Otherwise, like Jamie said, just stick to the who runs the town, who enforces the laws, who makes judgments, what are punishments, things like that.
Yeah.
Sort of those logical things that you need to know.
Everyday, every world basics kind of politics. All right, next question. Well, Hob tries to run them.
I'm not trying to run people over.
I know. What's the difference between traditional storytelling and being a DM? That's a good question. Okay. That's actually a good question.
So traditional storytelling is you tell a tale and the characters are part of the tale and it follows a linear progression. You have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that linear progression is very important
And
because
you control all of it.
Exactly. Well, and you do. You control all of it. So you're telling a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the characters in it are simply a part of the story. When you're playing, and we're going to get coffee.
We're gonna grab coffee as our thing just like tries to dive off.
What up?
Hey.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. I'll stay up this for ya. Today we're doing a triple shot coconut milk caramelizer and a small hot cinnamon spice sweet sunrise tea.
Yes.
Ice.
Should be iced. Should be an iced sweet sunrise. Iced sweet sunrise, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Hot cinnamon spice. It's
I thought
iced.
she said hot.
Yeah,
She did say hot
She
because
did
it's
say
hot cinnamon
She
spice.
did say hot.
See if that works for
Remember your drink.
I don't ever remember. No, it's so good. I love this stuff. It's my new addiction. This cinnamon tastes like cinnamon candy. It's so yummy.
Sorry, I'm troubleshooting over here.
Okay.
You know, we miss tech support over here. Oh shoot. When did that happen? That was literally like just last week. Yeah. Ooh. So we got our best. Sorry, Sam. I'm just gonna keep it back here because I don't want to get wet. Yeah, sure.
Move it back a little bit so that it doesn't fall on us.
It's gonna fall. Give me a bobblehead in a little bit.
Yep. There. Should be better.
Okay, that works. Oh, your drink's ready now too.
Nice.
So that worked out. You know, just
Right on.
It worked out
trying to
perfect.
get your stuff out.
Thank
while your
you.
drink was getting made.
Right on.
We're good. See you guys.
Bye. Alright. There's someone.
Okay, so
They look like they're
what-
pulling
what
out.
were
So
we
you look like
talking
you're
about
good
here?
on this side.
what were we talking about?
We were talking about.
Oh, politics. Yeah,
politics.
no, we moved on from
we
politics.
moved on from politics. What were we talking about?
No, you had the question.
Oh shoot! Now we have to like figure out what we were doing. I can't believe it.
I got distracted.
I can't believe it.
and
Let's see,
bemused.
is this it? How do you move the game
Nope,
forward?
we already answered that one.
We answered that one. I have no idea what we were talking
Okay,
about.
well, apparently I'm not going to answer that question, so
Nope, sorry,
moving
guys,
on.
move
Sorry
on.
about that. Somebody just
Oh, we
threw
were
it out.
talking about the difference between storytelling and DMing.
See, we stopped, we moved on, and now we remember. So anyhow, the difference between traditional storytelling and
We talked
Dungeons
about
and Dragons.
storytelling.
Right, we talked about the storytelling part. So on the Dungeons and Dragons side of things, this is very much I described it to somebody as being an improvisational play where you have a narrator and a bunch of people who kind of sort of have an idea of where they're going and no real
Sort
lines
of.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a loose improv
You're less the
story session.
storytelling, and you're more like a referee in a giant game of improv, in a giant improv storytelling
Yeah.
session.
Yeah. So you have your game master who referees the action and handles the non-live actors, which is to say the non-player characters, and then you have your players who provide the improvisational acting for all of the other for all of their characters. Now, that's not to say that you have to be an improv actor or a professional actor or
No.
anything like that to play. It's just that your role in the game is to provide lines and dialogue and actions on the fly.
I actually, one of the things that I say to people is I put prophecies into my games sometimes, and I have no idea what these prophecies mean. I really don't. I write them fairly vague, and I give them to my players, and I listen to what my players say about it, and they'll say like, "Ooh, I bet this means that we're going to have to go to this mountain and fight a dragon," and I'm like, "Yes, that's exactly what that means." It's
Sure.
sure, why not?
Whatever you say.
What their interpretation of it is that's what it is. That's
Yeah.
what it'll end up being, and I'll tie it into the game. But I'm not really there to tell them, go here, do this, rescue the princess.
Right.
If you want to side with the dragon, you go for it.
All right, one more question.
All right, here we go. Last question is... Oh, you know what? We just answered that, actually. Never mind. Last question is there any reason you would not want to world build yourself?
Yeah.
If you don't like doing it,
Yeah.
then don't do
Yeah,
it.
really, if you don't like doing it, Don't.
You don't like doing it, don't. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of worlds and realms and cool books. We're currently looking at Red and Pleasant Land from Lamentations of the Flame Princess. It's awesome.
It's fantastic.
It's totally going to be a fun world to play in.
Yeah, and you don't have to world build. You honestly don't. If you don't like doing it, don't do it. If it's something that you enjoy, it's a creative process. It can be all-consuming. But if you enjoy it, do it. If you don't. And it's as easy as that.
Yeah. But there are lots of cool worlds out there to play in. Worlds that
Tons
other people have made, worlds in books.
Dragon Grin, there's tons of them. I can't even think of half of them right now. There's just so many of them. There's Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms and Dark Sun and Rifts and alternate Earths. There's just billions of them. So if you don't like doing it, you don't have to do it. Feel free to pick a world and play in it and make it your own as you go. So next time, what do we want to talk about? We have two choices here.
Oh, crafting a story. I like
All
that
right.
one.
So next time we're going to talk about crafting a story. And we're gonna put together some questions related to that. If you enjoy what we're doing, or don't enjoy what you're doing and just want to hate watch us, please make sure to click the subscribe button below. If you do enjoy what we're doing, also click the like and click the little bell so that you get notifications about when we post updates.
Yep.
Ask us questions.
We'll be happy to answer them.
We will put them into. They'll probably go into the random box episodes for the most part. I think that'll be the easiest way to do it. So once a month.
But right now, we don't have a whole lot.
Yeah, at the moment, they'll
Thank you, one watcher.
They'll go in when we get them.
Yeah.
But in general, I think that's probably the best place to put them. So that's all we have for today.
We'll see
Thank
you guys
you
next
everyone
week.
for watching,
Bye.
and have a great rest of your weekend. Well, have a great week.